pieces of the metal. They have it on the kitchen table, on the kitchen floor. There was metal pieces of the wreckage. No one could identify it. Jesse Marcel Sr. stated to his family that, look at this. This is from a craft from an unknown origin, from another world. You may never see anything like this again. Okay? And that's where we get RAF captures. That's July 8th. That's where we get this. That's the headline. That is the truth. So they can't have that now, can they? And
Bienvenidos a Enfoque con Marcia Castillo. Una vez más, aquí hoy estamos con nuestro amigo Marzulli, nuevamente quien no necesita ningún tipo de introducción, y hoy vamos a estar hablando de un tópico muy importante, algo que ocurrió en este país, en los Estados Unidos de América, en el 1947, pero vamos a tener la información correcta con LA, en Roswell, New Mexico, Roswell, Nuevo México. Así es que vamos a darle a él la bienvenida y a comenzar este tiempo tan importante. Welcome, welcome again and again and again, LA. How are you?
I'm doing really good, Marcia. Thanks for having me on. And I'm actually about to go back and try to relearn Spanish. I started with Pimsleur. I was up to lesson whatever. And then I let it go because someone made fun of me when I was in Peru. So it's like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm a gringo trying to learn your language. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. But I want to learn it because it's just a beautiful language. And, I have my good friend Benarby, who's been with me for 35 years. He helps keep our 2-acre property the way it should be because I can't do it by myself. It's just too much. And, I'll Benarby, buenos dias, senor, buenas tardes, senor. So, it's just, I love the language. So it's great to hear you speak. And
I'm glad. Well, I'll coach you. I'll teach you a few phrases here and there. And besides, you have a Spanish audience through Enfoque.
Okay.
I have a lot of people that see all the podcasts that we record with the translation, and it would be great if you could say a few words in Spanish to them. So I'll teach you whenever you want. Okay. But today we're talking about Roswell, and you said we use the term expert loosely, but you have 2 films.
We have 2 films on the Roswell event, Exoneration, and we may be the only film company. I mean, I'm boasting here. I don't know, but we focus on Exoneration. This film here on the Marcel family, on what Jesse Marcel Sr. and Jesse Marcel Jr. may have lived with. And we talked to Jesse Marcel Jr.'s wife, his widow, which was really the first time she ever came on camera, which was amazing. All that's in the film. And we call it Exoneration because Jesse Marcel Sr. was the patsy. So let me give you the backstory here so you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
In 1945, you get the Hiroshima and Nagasaki events, which basically end World War II with Japan. Japan surrenders only because of the second nuke that was dropped on Nagasaki. You would think that they would go after Hiroshima. They would go, no, it took 2 bombs before they realized that, okay, we can't fight this. So they didn't realize that we didn't have any more. We only had the 2. Okay. But after the second one, and I'm not condoning this. War is hell. It's disgusting on all levels. And here's a sidebar. When Jesus returns, there's no more war. Get that. No more war. It's over. Hallelujah. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
But so that's 45. So the bombing group that dropped those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki is the 509th Bombing Group. The 509th Bombing Group is then stationed in Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, boy.
They're in Roswell, New Mexico. And this gets into this whole thing which is speculation on my part, but we absolutely know that these entities are focused on our nuclear sites. We actually broke the story. I'm hopping around. Robert Salas was the base commander at the Maelstrom base, nuclear base in Montana. Okay. He had 10 silos with intercontinental ballistic missiles, nukes, that were buried in the silos. He was 60 feet underground when a very large UFO appeared over the gate. So there's the UFO over the gate, and this UFO turns off, disconnects the 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles, which are stored in the silos. How's that possible? Just switches them off like this.
Wow.
Yeah, and on another site, the UFO lifted the 21-ton silo door off the silo, the top of the silo. Just lifted it off and moved it to the side, basically showing that we can do whatever we want to do. We can turn the missiles on, we can turn the missiles off, we can move the silo. God forbid, they probably could have launched them. So these entities are obsessed, in my opinion, with nuclear sites. Why is that? We'll get into that and remind me of that.
Okay.
I'll actually make myself a note here too. But they are obsessed with it. There's no doubt. They are absolutely obsessed with nuclear sites. And I think there's a reason for it. Okay. So I'm writing down so we can get back to that at some point. Nuclear sites.
So did I, because I want to talk, I want to hear.
So it's now 1947, which isn't that far away from Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The 509th Bombing Group is stationed in Roswell, New Mexico. To reiterate, the 509th is the same bombing group that dropped the atomic bomb. Then you get the Roswell event. And I have been to the debris field.
Have you really?
I've been to the debris field. So, it's one thing to talk about stuff. It's another thing to get boots on the ground and get there and see with your own eyes where this thing was. But we'll get into the debris field just a little bit. So we know the 509th Bombing Group was there. And we also know that Jesse Marcel Sr. went out into the debris field and he brought back pieces of the wreckage. That's a matter of historical record. So this is what July 8th, 1947. This is the headline. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. That's the truth.
Wow.
That's the truth. The next day, we get this. General Ramey empties saucer, right? Roswell saucer. And it says, Ramey says, excitement not justified. What does he say? Fort Worth, Texas. An examination by the Army revealed last night that mysterious objects found on a lonely New Mexico ranch was a harmless, high-altitude weather balloon, not a grounded flying disc. What's the truth? You tell me. What's the truth? What's the truth? Enter Jesse Marcel Sr. So the story goes something like this, and there's variations of it. But basically, it follows this idea that Mac Brazel, who was a rancher out on this ranch outside of Roswell, and this is 47. So you're looking at dirt roads.
Yeah.
A 2-lane road into Roswell, and then to get to this place, dirt roads. It's like, yeah, you had a paved road going into Roswell, but after that, it's all dirt. We went there, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But what's interesting here is Mac Brazel goes out on his ranch and he sees all this metal, all this stuff, this debris. And it's like the length of 2 football fields. It's all over the place. And he gathers some up and he brings it into town and he goes to the sheriff. And the sheriff goes, you better go over to the 509th. This might be something from them, because he didn't know what it was. And so he goes over. Jesse Marcel Sr. looks at this thing and goes, well, can you take me where it was? So they hop in the truck. They go out. They drive out to Mac Brazel's ranch. Marcel Sr. picks up some of the debris, puts it in the cardboard box. He drives home. And he wakes up his son, Jesse Marcel Jr., and his wife and shows them the pieces of the metal. They have it on the kitchen table, on the kitchen floor. There was metal pieces of the wreckage. No one could identify it. Jesse Marcel Sr. stated to his family that, look at this. This is from a craft from an unknown origin, from another world. You may never see anything like this again. Okay? And that's where we get RAF captures. That's July 8th. That's where we get this. That's the headline. That is the truth. So they can't have that now, can they? And General Ramey floats the weather balloon story. To think for 1 second, this is why the film is called Exoneration. Think for 1 second that Jesse Marcel Sr. would confuse the wreckage that he handled at Roswell in the debris field for anything else other than something not of this earth is patently absurd. This man was an intelligence officer of the 509th Bombing Group. This is not Elmer Fudd. It's not Elmer Fudd. This is a highly intelligent, respected man who knew everything that the Russians, the Chikoms, the Italians, the Germans, he knew everything that was out there, literally. He's trained in it.
Yeah.
He knows what a weather balloon looks like. He's around them all day long. But that's the story that they concocted because they can't have the truth going out. Because if this is, flying saucer, so we're not alone anymore, see where it all goes, it opens up the can of worms. And now you've got deliberate obfuscation from Roswell. That sets the tone. That sets the way the game is going to be played. Who's got the power to do that? General Ramey. Who is General Ramey reporting to? The Pentagon? Some secret task force that we don't know about? Because, MJ-12, possibly. We're still trying to get to the bottom of all this. There is no transparency. We have no idea. And this is why our members in Congress today are saying that you've got areas in our government which are not accountable to anybody. There's no oversight. We know that. This is
incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. And it's been going on for decades, over 70 years. Over 70 years. I'm 75 years old. I was born in 1950. Roswell was 3 years. So you're basically looking at this year, in July, it's the 78th anniversary of Roswell, which is absolutely unbelievable. We still don't know what happened. It's not a weather balloon. Quit lying to me.
We know that. We know that.
So we went up and we interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow. I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr. before he passed away, which was as close as you can get to it. He handled the wreckage. There's no doubt about it. He handled it. It was a cover-up. And what it did to the family was made Jesse Marcel Sr., his father, look like an idiot. Well, maybe you were drinking. Maybe you were high on peyote or something, right? How could you possibly confuse a weather balloon with a flying saucer? So we believe that Jesse Marcel Sr. was a patsy. There's no doubt about that. And then we interviewed his daughter, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s daughter, Denise, who talked about it, and his widow, who talked about it. It's all on film. And, I'll give you a shameless plug. If you want to watch it, you can go to our website, lamarzulli.com, and buy the DVDs, or you can buy the 10 DVD box set. Shameless plug. If you don't want to buy the DVDs, you can go to our streaming site for $4.99, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, folks. You can buy any of the DVDs you can buy. You can watch these things for basically $10. You can watch both films. So we did this exoneration to show what the Marcel family, put up with, how it tore the family apart, and how it affected everybody through the decades. We have a clip that is in our film that shows Jesse Marcel Sr. back in the debris field, and maybe for the first time since the incident. And he looks right at the camera and he goes, without Mac Brazel, the rancher, you never would have found the place. And I agree. I've been there. You would. It's not like, Roswell debris field this way. It's not that way at all.
No.
And we'll get into that in a second. So at the end of the interview, when he's in the debris field, Marcel Sr., Major Marcel, and he looks right at the camera. And Marcel was trotted out I've got pictures of it. And he's on his hands and knees. And he's looking at Ramey like, you've got to be kidding me. So in front of him is a weather balloon. In front of him is a weather balloon. And, he's the patsy. He's the fall guy. Where have we seen this before? He's the fall guy. And he's looking at Ramey going like, I'm being set up here. He doesn't say anything. He goes along with it. Years later, when he's back in the debris field, he says on the record, and, they wanted me to speak, but that's not what I did. So Ramey spoke and said it was a weather balloon. And then he looks right at the camera and goes, but we both knew differently. We both knew differently. And then you've got the deathbed confession. This is all in the film of Walter G. Haught, who was basically, it was an affidavit that was only to be opened after he passed from this earth, after his death. And it basically states that Walter G. Haught, General Ramey, obviously Jesse Marcel and others were seated at a table passing around the wreckage from the weather balloon. But it wasn't a weather balloon, from the crash disc that was out in the debris field. And no one knew what it was. Walter G. Haught also states on the record that he went into Hangar 84. It's all in the film. We got into Hangar 84. We got into Hangar 84 and filmed in the legendary Hangar 84. Unbelievable. Favorite.
I'm speechless.
Yeah, unbelievable. So Walter G. Haught said he was in Hangar 84. He saw the disc about 20 feet across. He saw the bodies underneath the tarp. They were about the size of a 10-year-old kid, large black eyes. I mean, it's all there in the affidavit. We've got other people, deathbed confessions. Colonel Hill, who was in the OSS, which is a forerunner of the CIA. Hill states on the record he was flown into Roswell, New Mexico, within 48 hours after they retrieved the bodies, right? After they retrieved the bodies. Hold that thought. So let me just write that down so I can get back to it. So he's flown in to Roswell, and one of the bodies is dead. The other one's alive. He tries to communicate with it. He can't communicate with it. It's got 6 fingers. It's got 6 fingers. There you go, like that, right? Ta-da-da-da-da-da. It's got 6 fingers. It's got large black eyes, large head. What are we looking at here, right? What are we looking at here? He's not making this up. A month later, he dies. So it's a deathbed, essentially what amounts to a deathbed confession. These men and women who saw this stuff are burdened down because they can't tell anybody. And they walk around the rest of their life going, it's like they know something. They know that the American people have been completely lied to. And so a deathbed confession, but who's going to believe it? So hold that thought, the bodies, right? Now, last year in the halls of Congress, the United States Congress, okay, under oath, you've got David Grush. He's under oath, all right? Put your hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Here we go. So David Grush is under oath stating on the record that we have non-human biologics that were retrieved from these crashed craft, more than one. I had a whistleblower who works at Wright-Patterson. Wright-Patterson is where they took all the records, they took all the bodies. And this person told me that there's a section at Wright-Pat that is always under constant guard. And when you get near it, you can smell the formaldehyde. And it's just a building, but down you go to an underground facility, and that's where these bodies are kept. That's conjecture, but when you keep hearing it from multiple witnesses, what are we looking at here? And of course, we're no further along the road. The United States government, the powers that be, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, the shadow government, has never come clean on Roswell. And until they do, we don't know. We don't know.
And you also have to consider that these people, these rancher, for example, Braswell, he was not interested in being famous. There was a very high price to be paid for talking about these things, because this was a taboo. People would think you're crazy. People would make fun of you. Why would they make this up? What's there? There's nothing to be gained by exposing this information. So, there was no social media back then, only the newspaper in the town, a local newspaper, right?
Correct.
Why would they do this? What's the purpose of saying, hey, I have wreckage in my property from something that's unknown? I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd that they would put themselves through the scrutiny of the government. Who knows if the government came up to them and say, if you talk, we'll kill you.
That's exactly what happened.
Right?
That's exactly. People were threatened. Yeah, people. Look, I was threatened for exposing the Kandahar giant. When we did the work on the Kandahar giant, we had two people that talked about the giant of Kandahar. I was contacted by a guy from the deep state who threatened me 3 times. When they come and arrest you, they'll find kiddie porn on your iPhone. Oh, isn't that interesting? Right? Wow. That's it. That's the end of your life. Oh, there's kiddie porn found. See how easily you can be framed?
Yeah.
Do you have a car? Yeah, I drive a 1991 Mercedes SL 500 that I restored. So this is not, 2016. This is a really old car, but it was my go-kart, and I love that car. And he goes, is it a computer? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, they can mess with the computer. So you'll have an accident and never recover from it. How many times have we seen the car speeds away, right? And the fiery crash, kaboom, and the person dies? I mean, I'll just leave that at that, right? The third one was, it's the same guy. I'm threatened 3 different times. Do you have any children? Yeah, I have 2 children. One of them could go missing and never be found again. And I looked at the guy and I said, yeah, I know. You have all the cards. I'm a worm. You can crush me, but you can't do anything to me unless the Most High God allows it. You can't. Amen. And that was like a punch to his solar plex. He actually took a step back. So that's how the game is played. It's different now. That was in 2016. Trump got elected. It all went away. We were also being audited by the IRS, who stated that we owed well over $150,000 in back taxes. That would have bankrupted us, but we didn't. And and this is unbelievable, right? I go to my accountant. I'm under audit with these guys. I have 2 weeks to respond. And the accountant that I'm with goes, we can no longer represent you, Mr. Marzulli, and hands me my file. Well, is there anybody else here who can represent me? No, I'm sorry, sir. We can't. Who got to whom, right? So I call up a friend of mine who's a lawyer. He gives me this guy, and we've been with him ever since. And once Trump got elected, Hillary lost, Trump got elected, 2 of those years that we owed back taxes to went away just like that.
Look at that.
Just went away. Oh, we made a clerical error, Mr. Marzulli. But the old guy couldn't represent me, but the new guy immediately found the error and said, no, he doesn't know this. We owed 1 year, and this is under the Obama tax plan where you never get to keep any of your money. So we made a lot of money that year. That was the year we were on Sid Roth. We sold a ton of Amitril and Nephilim books. We're selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And, how much of that money were we, in our pockets? Not much. Everybody's got to give a little more. So, we never own anything. Don't get me going on the taxing. We all pay property taxes. In your state in Florida, the governor, hallelujah, is talking about maybe abolishing property taxes. Did he get that from me? What should happen is this. You're 65 years old. You never pay another income tax, never pay any taxes on anything, including Social Security. Why am I being taxed on Social Security? I've already been taxed on that money once. Oh, we want every last nickel we can extract out of you. And you never own your property. The property taxes where we are based on when we bought the property in 1987, but they keep jacking it up because of inflation. So right now our property taxes are affordable. Let's say they're $5,000 a year. You do the math.
That's right.
You do the math. How much of that is every month I'm paying of the government to living on my property, which is free and clear? I never own anything. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong on so many levels. It needs to be corrected. Hopefully we'll see Trump do this. Anyway. So I digress. So we get
I've stolen that phrase from you, by the way.
Yeah, we have.
But I digress.
We have these mugs here. But I digress. So,
that's cute. So what you're talking about is the government bullying Americans, basically. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what happened with the Roswell incident.
Absolutely. All day long. All day long.
Why is Roswell important, relevant today? Why?
Roswell is relevant and very important today because it's the beginning of the way that the powers that be are going to couch the phenomena for decades until 2017, where it breaks loose with Commander David Fravor. You can actually go back to like 2004, 2005 with the Nimitz. New York Times ran the story on it. I think that's the right date, but it was the same thing. But in 2017, Commander David Fravor winds up on Tucker Carlson's show, and Carlson asks him, what was this tic-tac shaped object that you saw? And Fravor looks right at the camera. And this is the best of the best of the best. It doesn't get any better than this. You know, this isn't Porky Pig flying the F-18. This is Commander David Fravor. You just don't give $1 million jet like this to Porky. It ain't going to happen. This guy knows how to fly a plane. He's the best of the best. And he looks right at the camera and says, whatever this was not from this earth. That opens the floodgates. That led to the book, Rungs of Disclosure. That was the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. We're up to rung number 20 as we speak, which is unbelievable. So, you know, what we're looking at here is a deliberate obfuscation, a deliberate cover-up of the events of Roswell. I mean, that's what it is. It's an absolute deliberate cover-up. And, you know, what are we looking at here? Why? And we still really don't know anything about it. We get whistleblowers like David Grush, like Commander David Fravor, and others that are coming out. There's a new film. It's a documentary, The Age of Disclosure. It's got probably by this time, over 20 million downloads on YouTube. It's just a trailer, 20 million. We come out from a Christian perspective. We have 10 films, everything from Close Encounters of the First, Second, and Third Kind, the Fourth Kind, abductions, crop circles, cattle mutilations, 2 films on Roswell, and finally, What is the Truth? 9 and 10, where we sit down with people on both sides of the aisle and discuss, are these extraterrestrials? No, they're interdimensional entities that have been here for thousands of years. People like Gary Stearman, Nick Pope, George Norrie, Derek Gilbert, Mondo Gonzalez, and others. Gonzo. I mean, the list goes on. That both sides of the aisle, we're as fair and balanced. I hate to use that word, but we're as fair and balanced as you can get. Yes, we have a prevailing paradigm. That's from a biblical perspective, but we give the other side of the aisle a chance to at least, you know, unpack what they believe. They never do that with me. They always spin what I say or say, he's just a pseudo-archaeologist. He's just a pseudo-scientist. I love it. Let me see. Did you take DNA from the elongated skulls? Oh, wait, no, you didn't. So who's the pseudoscientist now? You're sitting in your, government-funded whatever by taxpayer dollars, accusing me of being a pseudo-archaeologist, where I'm actually getting the samples out legally from Peru and doing the DNA research.
Yeah.
I mean, does the DNA machine that's sequencing this stuff, does it care what I believe? Absolutely not. Just like the Shroud of Turin. Does the C14 data, does the machine care what your belief system is, whether you're a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian? Of course not. It spits out the data because that's what the machine does. And that's what our DNA evidence. And we are at the point where we're going to reveal probably in the next month or two some startling information, new information about the Paracas DNA. So we actually go out to the debris field, getting back to Roswell. We get out to the debris field, and there's a 4-lane highway that goes out of Roswell. 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes the other way. It's a modern 4-lane highway with a nice divider so you can't cross over, right? And so we're on that road for about an hour. We're with Chuck Zukowski and Frank Kimball. Chuck was a co-producer in our film. Frank was an expert on the debris field. He had been out there at least 20 times. He had found probably 6 or 7 or 8 pieces of metal and had them analyzed. So he knows the debris field. He knows where they put the spikes in the debris field. This comes from a debris field. This is one of the spikes that actually comes from a debris field. They take these spikes and they pound them down into the ground, and they bury them into the ground. So when you go over the metal detector, your metal detector goes off, and this is what you find. So why would anybody do that, right? Oh, nothing to see here, folks, right? Or is there?
Yeah, sure.
Or is there? So we're out there with Frank. We're on the 4-lane highway. We make a left-hand turn. We're on a 2-lane country road. It's asphalt, 2-lane country road. Then we're on that for about a half an hour. We make a left-hand turn, and now we're on the road to the debris field. It's gravel and dirt. It's a cattle road. There's just nothing around as far as you can see. nothing. There's just free range cattle. That's it. We're on that for at least 30 minutes. We have to stop because cattle crossing the road, right? It's free range. And then we come up to this little cattle gate, and Frank knew where it was, opens the cattle gate, and we drive our cars up. Now we're four-wheeling. It's very uneven. It's just, two tire tracks. And there we are. After about 20 minutes, we're in above the debris field. And we go down into the debris field. And that day, there was a cloud that was covering the entire debris field for the entire time we were there, for the duration of our visit. So the sun was not beating down upon us by day or the moon by night. It was unbelievable. Psalm 121.
Yes.
That's exactly what was going on. Psalm 121. I've been praying that psalm for the last month. And then we were praying, my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I, our audio guy, and also second cameraman, Jim Peterson, and we were praying about all this. And all of a sudden, Frank goes, oh my gosh, I got a hit. He's with his metal detector. But before that, we were interviewing Chuck and Frank and myself. The cameras were there, brand new batteries in the cameras. And as we're filming, the batteries drain just like that. They go from 100% to zero. How is that possible? I've seen this before on other sites, Silistani in Peru. I've seen this before, where you walk into a charged site and your batteries just drain. So we were there in the debris field, and Frank, come on over, guys, I got a hit. This is on film. Chuck Sikowski later told me that we are the only film company on the planet that has ever actually filmed a piece of a debris coming up out of the ground. In other words, he's digging it with a little garden spade, and he's sifting the soil, and finally he finds where the piece is. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like close up.
Oh, wow. Metal, for sure.
And this is actually a piece of the metal from a debris field, right?
Oh, my word. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And we went to Seal Lab. It's not called Seal Lab anymore. And we put it under a scanning electron microscope. And when you magnify it about 300 times, what you see is the metal is folded in on itself. How is that done? And this metal, you can see, I mean, there's my pinky, right? There's my pinky nail. So you can see how small it really is. See that?
Wow.
About half the size of my pinky nail. And it's folded in on itself. And we had a metallurgist that was there that came out, and I stated, it's like, well, what do you think happened to this metal? And this person said, well, it was traumatized. It went through some sort of a crash or some sort of trauma. Chuck and Frank had pieces of metal, and they've done their metal tested, and it's an unknown aluminum alloy. It doesn't fit anything that we know. This metal was also tested in a handheld device, and it kept bouncing back and forth between two aluminum alloys. And I was told, well, the reason why it's doing that, because the piece isn't large enough to really get a good reading on it. That's why it's bouncing back and forth. But is it? I mean, I challenged that. And I said, well, this is exactly what the other two researchers, Chuck and Frank, when they had their metal tested at two different labs, they weren't able to get a reading on it. So more testing needs to be done. And we are going to try to get isotopic ratios of the metal, because we have 3 pieces. Actually, Frank's probably got, 8, 10, 12 pieces. I don't know. I have 1.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, pretty amazing. So
it is pretty amazing.
Not making this stuff up.
The first time that I was exposed to this, to the Roswell incident, it was through a documentary. I don't remember what channel was the one that had the documentary, but I saw an interview that they did on the rancher, Braswell, and he seemed like a very serious gentleman, someone who was just living his life, doing his own thing, and then this thing happened, and his life gets turned upside down. He didn't talk about this for many years, correct? It took him a very long time.
Or he would come on the record, yes.
When he decided, I'm going to come on the record, I'm going to talk about this, because it was like a burden that he carried for many years. He didn't want to hurt his family. He didn't want to expose his family, because obviously, as we discussed it before, these people must have had several visitations from the government or some agency or the shadow government, whoever it was, and said, you talk, you die. Or you talk, I'm going to kill your kids. So this is not something trivial. There's something here that is legit. This is not something that some quack is making up and saying, I want ratings. No. This is a person whose life was seriously affected, who may have lost the respect of the people in his town because he lived in a small town. There was a price that had to be paid, and he paid that price. And, all the other people that were involved, you yourself have been affected by all these things. Sure. And a lot of people are skeptical. A lot of people don't want to believe, but I think we're at a point in our lives, and I want to bring back the topic of the disclosure, if you want to call it that, session that Congress had last year. Do you think that the information that was shared by their witnesses, even though they put their hands on the Bible, they couldn't care less about the Bible? They don't respect the Bible, in my opinion. I may be wrong, and I'm not going to generalize either, but did they do anything with that disclosure, with that information that they shared? Is this something that they are going to continue exploring? What was the point of having that session if they're not going to do anything about it?
Well, this is what's very problematic. Even under Trump, I mean, when the Republicans got the House back, they started all this stuff in 2024 before Trump was elected. Now he's been elected. We got 100 days here. You got to give the guy, he's already done a lot, but he's being stymied by the powers that be, on the other side of the aisle. That just all they can do is call names. Do you guys like paying more taxes? Do you like the fact that, let's make America great again, and we can do that. But the left and the left ideology, they don't want that. I mean, higher taxes, more control. That's all they care about. Kill as many babies as we possibly can through the abortion holocaust. Killing all the children, because that's what they are. And that's unprecedented in all of world history. But the government knows. But this is what's really problematic, and the American people need to understand that there are facets of our government that are not accountable to anybody. They're not. So you have this breach in the Constitution. It is no longer by the people and for the people and of the people. It is not of the people, not accountable to the people, not accountable to anyone. And it's being funded in part by black ops and your taxpayer dollars. And no one knows. There's no accountability. Billions of dollars go missing. This is why people don't like Elon Musk and Doge. Excuse me? What don't you like? The fact that he's exposing this unbelievable amount of money going to this complete waste? Do you want your taxpayer money to go for transgender clinics in India? Does that benefit the American people in any way? No.
Absolutely not.
What about condoms in Giza? Does that benefit the American people in any way? No. I mean, the list is endless. Social Security fraud through the roof. But all the Democrats can do is spin it and go, we're going to lose Social Security. Oh my gosh. And that's not what's going on. What's going on, right, is the fact that we're getting people who weren't born yet who are getting Social Security. We're trying to find out who these people are. There is so much fraud, so much waste. Don't you people care about that? So there is a shadow government. There is no president that I'm aware of has ever gotten into Area 51. That's the first thing. So these people who operate in Area 51, what do they have there? Nobody knows. Why don't the American people know? So now this stuff is coming out. Bob Lazar, who was a whistleblower way back in the 90s, actually met him, has a new documentary out calling for transparency, talking about element 115, this element which allows the craft to levitate. Whistleblowers are coming forth. This new film, The Age of Disclosure. I mean, that film is already 20 million views. Our films, we're lucky if we get 20 or 30,000 views of the trailer. I mean, the church is just, look, I've done my job, Marcia. I'm not trying to bag on the church, but I've done my job, but people don't care. I mean, there was a conference last week, and I won't tell you where it was, but it's in a well-known area, and there should have been at least 300 or 400 people there. There were 60 people at this conference, 60. And the Lord told me this about a month and a half ago now, that stop doing conferences, cancel the conferences that you have, focus on your daily show, focus on your interviews, focus on finishing your books, focus on filming, getting your films done. And that's what we've done. So I canceled 7 conferences for 2025, and we're looking at canceling an 8th. I won't say which one yet, but we're trying to cancel it. The last time I checked, they had 35 signups in a church of 400 people. So that's fine. You're not interested in it, and I don't care. I don't care as far as I'm not trying to convince you of anything. That's why I don't care. But here are the facts. This is what's going on. And I say this with all due humility. The Lord has raised me up for a time such as this. I've been doing this for well over 30 years professionally. The first book, Nephilim Trilogy, came out 1999. That's 26 years ago. The research goes back into the 90s before that, and before that into the 80s. And then before that, when I saw my first UFO as a 12-year-old. And then in my teenage years, just being immersed in New Age philosophy and all of that, and living with a guru for 3 years and all that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not making this up, but the church is, for the most part, they're 20 years behind. They still won't talk about it. I've been kicked out of a church for talking about UFOs. I mean, that's the reason why I was fired. Not because of what they said it was, but they didn't like what I was saying. They didn't like that I was affecting other people in the congregation, because we had just come out with the Nephilim Trilogy was out, and not the third book, but the Nephilim was out, and that's all about the whole UFO thing, and then Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural Report. Yeah. And I'm not saying that in an angry way. I mean, all is forgiven. That was great. It's like Joseph being sold to Egypt. He came into his ministry. I was kicked out. I came into my ministry. That's when the Lord said, good, you're not tied to a church, go. And here we are.
One podcast at a time. But you know what? The church needs to be aware. How are we going to pray and intercede in an efficient way if we don't understand the entities that we're fighting against, if we don't understand what they're doing? If we don't understand what's moving in our realm, because that's where they're at right now. It's okay, we came down and now we're going to come down some more. And before you know it, they'll be visible again, as in the days of Noah.
Correct.
Hello. It's like the Lord is screaming, pay attention. So for us as pastors, we are bringing awareness, especially for the Hispanic community, because we don't have an L.A. Marzulli in Spanish. Your ministry is critical. It's the truth. And when I started Enfoque, it was the burden in my heart was to bring the American speaking prophets. And I'm not using that word loosely or that title loosely. These are the people that are speaking in about the realm that is not visible yet. Bring them to the Hispanic community so that they are aware. We need to pray. We need to be in one accord. We need to know. We claim that we have the anointing of the sons of Issachar. Really? Then we need to be able to talk about the Nephilim, the aliens, all these things that are manifesting right now. So your ministry, your books, your videos, we're going to put all of them in on our show. We're going to show them so that they know where to go, so that they have access to your material. But this information is critical, Lele. It's really important that we know, and I cannot emphasize it enough. We must talk about this. We must not be afraid of it. Okay, we've been afraid for a long time to talk about these things, and I, for one, I'm bold. I bring it all back to the Bible, just like you do all the time. You talk about the Lord, you talk about the Word of God, and you talk about the fact that these entities are lying and they're just demons.
Demons and fallen angels, correct.
Demons and fallen angels.
Thank you for the kudos. I just, people always try to put a label. Some people try to put a label on me. You're a prophet, you're this, you're that. And I kind of shy away from any type of labeling. I'm a sinner saved by grace. God's raised me up for a time such as this. My hand is on the plow. I'm under constant attack, not constant, but almost constant attack from the enemy, from so-called Christian brothers and sisters. Some of them are just unbelievable. But, the Lord's in control. I think he's coming back, and I think it's soon. I'm not a date setter, but maybe next Wednesday. I'm saying that tongue in cheek. But I think it's soon. I really do. Because you can't.
So do I.
And now with AI and all the stuff that's going on, and the mixing of the seed and the genes, the dire wolf. I interviewed Josh Beck yesterday about the dire wolf. It's a new species. It's not the dire wolf. They took certain genetic material and mixed it with other genes, and AI was responsible for doing this. We're at the point with AI that supersedes, it's going to supersede all of human knowledge that's ever been recorded, and it's all in this one little container. It's almost like a created God, as it were. It's really bizarre. So the Lord's got to come back. I'm not a date setter again. I think it's soon. What is soon? Who knows? Is that a year, LA? Is it 5 years? I have no idea. In my spirit, I just feel it's soon. So
that's right. That's right. You bear witness.
Yeah, I do.
As to what's coming. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today. It's always a pleasure. And hopefully we will see you soon. So thank you so much, Ale, for this interesting, relevant conversation regarding Roswell, New Mexico. God bless.
Thank you for having me on. Always great to see you, and vaya con Dios.
Amen. Amen. Look at that. Vaya con Dios. Yay. All right.